Zara Smith stood in front of the bathroom mirror at the studio, adjusting her blazer and trying to calm the fluttering of butterflies in her stomach. Today was the day. After 5 years of chasing down leads, working through holidays, and clawing her way up from a humble Channel 8 weather girl to a global news network correspondent, she had finally arrived at her big break. This was the moment she had been waiting for, an interview with Elon Musk live on national television. Millions of people would be watching. "You've got this," she whispered to her reflection, trying to give herself some much-needed confidence. Her dark eyes stared back at her, determined but nervous. In just half an hour, she would be sitting across from the renowned entrepreneur, the man behind Tesla and SpaceX, and one of the most famous visionaries of this generation. The stakes were high, and she couldn't afford to mess up. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her mom. "Good luck today, Beta. We're all watching." Zara smiled. Her parents had always supported her, even when it meant moving away from their small town in Kansas to the bustling city to chase her journalistic dreams. They'd be watching this interview too, gathered in their living room with the extended family, cheering her on. But as she read the message, she couldn't help but feel a rush of nerves. What if she let them down? The bathroom door swung open, and the makeup artist poked her head inside. "There you are, Harvey's looking for you. He's got that vein popping in his forehead." Zara groaned. Harvey Dunham, her boss and the executive producer of Global Spotlight, was known for two things: his legendary temper and his knack for making high-stakes interviews go smoothly. And she didn't want to be the one to break his composure today. "Tell him I'll be right there," Zara said, checking her teeth for any last-minute lipstick smudges. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the bathroom. The studio hallway stretched ahead of her, lined with framed awards and photos of past iconic interviews. She wondered, would her photo with Musk one day adorn these walls? Harvey was pacing near the set, his clipboard in hand, his brows furrowed like always. He didn't stop his hurried pace when he saw her. "There she is! Our rising star," he said, but the words were hollow, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. 7 minutes until we're live, Smith. Cutting it a little close, aren't we?" Zara forced a smile. "Sorry, just reviewing my notes." Harvey grabbed her by the elbow, steering her toward a quiet corner. "Listen to me very carefully. This interview isn't just big for you. It's huge for the network. Our ratings have been slipping, and we need this to be spectacular. You can't mess it up." "I know, Harvey. I'm ready," Zara replied, though a little unease crept into her voice. He paused for a moment, scrutinizing her. "Musk agreed to this interview because he has something big to announce, something world-changing, and he specifically requested you." Zara blinked, surprised. "Me? Why?" "Apparently, he saw that piece you did on the Silicon Valley startup scandal. He liked your direct approach," Harvey said, making air quotes with his fingers. "But that's also what worries me." Zara raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" Harvey leaned in, lowering his voice. "Your sarcasm works when you're grilling corrupt CEOs or exposing frauds. But Musk is different. He's unpredictable, powerful. We need him more than he needs us. You want to ask the tough questions? Fine, but be smart about it. Respectful? No zingers today." Zara's frustration bubbled up, but she tamped it down. She had worked too hard to get here to suddenly backpedal now. Her style had always been to ask tough but fair questions, with a slight edge of sarcasm. It made her relatable. She wasn't about to change that now, but she took a deep breath and nodded. "Got it, Harvey. I'll be respectful." Harvey gave her a quick once-over, then checked his watch. 18 minutes until we're live. The pre-interview meet and greet is in 5. Don't be late for that." As Harvey hurried off, Zara's heart pounded. She had worked for years to get to this point, and now the interview of a lifetime was finally here. Would this interview define her career, or would she make a mistake that would cost her everything? She took another deep breath and walked toward the green room. 2 security guards stood outside the door to Musk's dressing room, both of them scanning the hall with sharp eyes. One of them nodded and opened the door for her. Inside, Elon Musk sat on a leather couch, scrolling through his phone. When he saw Zara, he stood up and extended his hand with a small smile. "Miss Smith," he said, his voice calm and collected. "I've been looking forward to this." Zara shook his hand, surprised by his firm grip and direct eye contact. "Likewise, Mr. Musk," she replied. "Thank you for choosing our show for your announcement. Your reputation precedes you." "You don't waste time with nonsense questions," he said, his eyes glinting with a kind of certainty that made Zara both curious and uneasy. There was something in his demeanor that suggested this wouldn't be a normal interview. Something bigger. The production assistant knocked on the door. "5 minutes, Miss Smith." "Mr. Musk, back on set." Zara settled into her chair as the crew made final adjustments to the cameras and lights. Across from her, Musk sat with an air of calm that was almost unsettling. For a man about to unveil a game-changing technology, he seemed remarkably composed. "So, Mr. Musk," Zara began, leaning forward slightly, "you've made some bold claims before, but this announcement, what makes this one different?" Musk smiled and leaned in slightly, as if sharing a secret. "This is not just an extension of existing technologies. It's something completely new." Zara's mind raced as she readied herself for the big question. This could be her chance to make history. She needed to press him, just the right amount. But as the director started counting down the minutes, she realized this wasn't just another interview. This was going to change everything. The cameras began rolling, and Zara straightened her shoulders as the director silently signaled for them to start. The familiar weight of the red light on the camera added pressure, but Zara had been in front of the camera long enough to know how to handle it. She took a deep breath and began her opening lines. "Good evening, America," she said, her voice steady, despite the storm of thoughts in her mind. "I'm Zara Smith, and this is Global Spotlight. Tonight we have a very special guest, entrepreneur, innovator, and CEO of SpaceX and Tesla, Elon Musk." The camera panned to show both of them seated at the table. "Mr. Musk, thank you for joining us tonight," Zara continued, keeping her tone polite but sharp. "Thank you for having me, Zara," Musk replied, his voice calm and measured. There was a quiet confidence in the way he spoke, as though he had no doubt that what he was about to announce would change the world. "You requested this interview to make an announcement," Zara said, keeping her voice neutral. "Something you've called game-changing technology. Our viewers are certainly intrigued. What exactly is it?" Musk leaned forward slightly, the faintest glint in his eye showing his passion for the subject at hand. "What I'm about to share with you has been in development for 6 years. It's something that will solve one of humanity's greatest challenges. Energy scarcity." Zara's mind sharpened. This was it. The moment that could make her career or destroy it. She carefully pushed forward. "And how does this differ from the work you've already done in electric vehicles and solar power?" Musk's eyes lit up, and he sat back in his chair as if preparing to share the secret of the century. "This is different because it's not just about improving what we already have. This is a completely new approach. We call it quantum energy integration, or QEE." Zara repeated the term to herself under her breath. "Quantum energy integration," she said aloud, her skepticism creeping into her voice despite her best efforts. "That sounds impressive, but what does it really mean for everyday people?" Musk smiled, the confidence in his words matching the intensity in his eyes. "Imagine a world where energy scarcity no longer exists," he said, his voice taking on a passionate edge. "Where a device the size of a microwave could power an entire neighborhood. Where remote villages can have the same access to energy as New York City. And where pollution from energy production is eliminated entirely." Zara raised an eyebrow. "That sounds almost too good to be true," she replied, doing her best to keep her tone respectful while still sounding skeptical. She had seen too many so-called game-changing technologies that turned out to be nothing more than promises. But how exactly does it work? Musk's eyes brightened even more, a gleam of excitement flashing across his face. "We've spent years developing and testing prototypes. At its core, QEI harnesses quantum fluctuations from what physicists call the zero-point field." Zara's interest was piqued. Quantum fluctuations, the zero-point field. She tried to keep her expression neutral, but inside she was already thinking about the implications. This wasn't just any energy technology. This was a completely new realm of science. "I'll admit," she said, her voice taking on a more serious tone, "that sounds like science fiction. Are you saying you found a way to pull energy from empty space?" Musk gave a small chuckle. "Not empty space, Zara. space is never truly empty. At the quantum level, it's a bubbling sea of virtual particles constantly popping in and out of existence. What we've done is develop a method of harnessing that activity and converting it into usable electricity. Zara blinked, struggling to wrap her mind around the idea. It felt like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But Musk was speaking with such confidence. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So you're telling me that your company has developed a way to essentially create energy from nothing? Zara asked, narrowing her eyes slightly. Musk paused for a moment, and Zara noticed a slight shift in his demeanor. He seemed to understand her skepticism. It may seem that way from a classical physics standpoint, but quantum mechanics has always challenged our intuitions about how the world works. We're not creating energy out of nothing. We're accessing an energy source that's been there all along. It was just beyond our reach until now. Zara let that sink in for a moment. She had spent enough time in the world of journalism to know that extraordinary claims required extraordinary evidence. And while Musk was calm and assured, this was still just talk. He had to show her more than just words. And when can the public expect to see this technology in action? She asked, moving on to the next question. She couldn't afford to get caught up in the science of it all without understanding how it would affect everyday life. Musk's face softened slightly, as though he had been waiting for this question. We've already begun limited production. The first units will be deployed to developing nations within 6 months. We're focusing on areas with no existing power infrastructure. Remote regions, small villages, disaster zones. The goal is to make this technology available to those who need it most. Zara nodded, glancing at her notes before looking back at Musk. And what about safety concerns? She asked, a note of caution creeping into her voice. If you're pulling energy from the quantum foam, as you call it, has this been thoroughly tested? Are there any risks we should be aware of? Excellent question, Musk replied, nodding approvingly. Safety has been our top priority from the start. We've conducted over 2,000 hours of continuous operation tests in various environments. The technology is completely radiation-free, produces no waste, and has multiple fail-safes built in. Zara felt a strange shift in her perspective. Part of her wanted to laugh it off, but another part of her was starting to wonder. If this was real, it could change everything. The energy crisis, pollution, the global economy. Musk was talking about solving all of it, but still she had her doubts. She couldn't help herself. So to be clear, she interjected, you're telling me that your company has solved the world's energy crisis by essentially plugging into an invisible force that physics says can't be harnessed? Musk paused for a moment, studying her face. Zara could almost hear the wheels turning in his mind as he tried to gauge her skepticism. I understand your skepticism, he said, his tone surprisingly empathetic. It does sound impossible, but the truth is, we're not breaking the laws of physics. We're simply working with principles that have always been there, waiting to be discovered. Zara felt a mixture of disbelief and curiosity growing inside her. This was it, the moment of truth. Was this really the breakthrough that Musk claimed it was? Or was it just another elaborate scam? Before she could ask another question, her body betrayed her. She let out a sharp laugh. It wasn't a huge laugh, just a brief, almost involuntary sound that escaped before she could stop it. But in the silence of the studio, with the cameras rolling and microphones picking up every sound, it seemed to echo. Musk's eyes didn't flash with anger, as Zara had expected. Instead, he smiled, almost as though he felt pity for her. He didn't seem offended by her laugh. He almost seemed to understand. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, but Zara couldn't take her eyes off of him. This wasn't going as she had planned, but it was happening, and somehow she felt like she might be in over her head. The silence in the studio stretched out like an eternity. Zara could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her chest, and her mind raced to recover from the mistake she had just made. That laugh, that sharp, involuntary sound, it was a misstep she would regret. Her training told her to stay calm, to maintain composure, but the pressure of the cameras and the tens of millions of viewers watching made it feel impossible. She could practically feel the anger of her producer, Harvey, burning into her back from behind the scenes. She had heard the gasp in her earpiece, and she knew that the producers were scrambling, panicking about how the moment would play out. But what surprised her most was Musk's response. Instead of the anger or offense she had expected, Musk simply smiled, a small, almost knowing smile, and nodded. His eyes softened, almost as though he pitied her. He didn't seem angry at all, which threw Zara off balance even more. "Ms. Smith," Musk said, his voice quiet but clear, cutting through the awkwardness like a knife. "I'd like to invite you to see it for yourself tomorrow. Live on your show." Zara blinked, thrown off guard. Was he serious? Her mind scrambled to process what he had just said. Did he want to prove something? Challenge her in front of millions of viewers? I'm sorry," she stammered, struggling to maintain her professional demeanor. "Unless you're afraid of being proven wrong," Musk added, his tone light, but with a hint of challenge. Zara's heart skipped a beat. The cameras were still rolling, the world was still watching, and she had just been handed an out, a chance to backpedal, to get out of the awkwardness, to salvage her career. The temptation to say something dismissive, to turn down the offer, was there. But something about Musk's calm, unflappable nature made her hesitate. Not for the first time, she realized just how much power this man wielded, not just in business, but in the narrative of the world. Was this part of his plan all along? Was he testing her, or was this his way of proving that his technology wasn't a joke? Zara cleared her throat, feeling the eyes of the nation on her. Of course," she said, trying to sound professional. "Global Spotlight would be happy to follow up on this story." Musk gave a slight nod, his gaze unwavering. "Good. I'll have my team send the coordinates. Same time tomorrow. Your viewers deserve to see the truth for themselves, don't you think?" Zara nodded, though her stomach churned with a growing sense of unease. What had she just agreed to? Would she really be stepping into something that could change the course of history? Or was she walking into a trap, a carefully orchestrated show to make her look foolish? The thought of making her skepticism public again, this time with the evidence to back it up, was both terrifying and exhilarating. "Of course," Zara said, trying to mask the doubt in her voice as she turned back to the camera. "Thank you again, Mr. Musk. We'll see you tomorrow for an exclusive follow-up to tonight's breaking news." The floor director called out, "And we're clear!" The red light blinked off, signaling the end of the broadcast. Zara exhaled sharply, her body finally relaxing, but the adrenaline of the moment still raced through her. As soon as the cameras were off, Zara's eyes immediately sought out Harvey. She didn't even have to look hard. She could feel his fury before she saw him. He stormed across the studio, his face a thundercloud of rage. His usually well-composed demeanor was gone, replaced with a mixture of frustration and disbelief. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" Harvey hissed, low enough that only Zara could hear. Zara felt the heat of his glare. I didn't mean for it to." "You laughed at Elon Musk," Harvey cut her off, his voice sharp. "On live television, what part of respectful didn't you understand?" Zara wanted to explain that she had been caught off guard, that it was a reflex, a brief lapse in judgment, but the words stuck in her throat. The fact was, she had laughed and the damage had been done. Her reputation was hanging by a thread. "I know, Harvey," Zara said quietly, her voice steady despite the growing panic inside her. "But he invited me to see the technology, tomorrow. He said I'd get to witness it firsthand, the real thing." Harvey's face remained tense, his anger still simmering beneath the surface. "You're lucky he didn't walk off set. Do you know how many advertisers we could lose over this? He has 90 million followers on Twitter, Zara. 90 million. Zara felt the weight of those words, the enormity of the situation starting to sink in. She had just done the unthinkable. She had doubted Musk in front of millions of viewers, and now she had a chance to make it right, or to make it worse. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she pulled it out, hoping for a lifeline. It was a message from her mother. "Are you okay? We saw the show." The simple words sent a pang of guilt through her. She knew how much her parents had believed in her, how much they were rooting for her. Had she just shattered that belief? Zara sighed, glancing at Harvey. "I need to go. I've got to prepare for tomorrow." Harvey nodded stiffly, his lips tight. "You'd better hope that magic energy box works, because if it doesn't, your career at this network is over, and you'll have no one to blame but yourself." The weight of his words hit her like a ton of bricks, but it wasn't just her career that was on the line anymore. If Musk's technology was real, if what he had claimed about solving the world's energy crisis was true, then she would be at the center of a global story. But if it wasn't, well, her reputation as a journalist would be gone forever. As she walked toward the exit, trying to avoid the stares of her colleagues who had once looked at her with admiration, Zara's phone buzzed again. Her social media notifications flooded in, each one more brutal than the last. She had gone viral, but not for the reasons she had hoped. The memes started pouring in. When you laugh at the guy who built reusable rockets, Zara Smith's career suicide, the reality of the situation hit her like a punch to the gut. She could feel the weight of every negative comment, every joke, every mocking tweet. She pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders, trying to block it all out. She had made her bed. Now she would have to lie in it. Zara's apartment was eerily quiet when she arrived later that night. The usual hum of the city outside seemed muffled, almost as if the world had paused to watch her failure unfold. She kicked off her shoes and sank onto her couch, the weight of the day pressing down on her chest. The phone buzzed incessantly, a constant reminder of how quickly everything had unraveled. She picked it up, seeing a flood of notifications. Every social media platform had exploded with her name, some with mockery, some with pity. But among the thousands of messages, there were a few that caught her eye. From other journalists, from science communities, a few supportive messages. At least she questioned him. Good for Zara, skeptical but smart. Still, the positive comments were drowned out by the tidal wave of ridicule. The clips of her laugh, of the exact moment her skepticism turned to mockery, were now viral. In a way, the memes felt like a punch to her gut. They were everywhere. Zara turned the phone off. She had seen enough. She didn't need to hear the endless comments about her failure. Tomorrow would be her chance to redeem herself, or it would seal her fate. A text from her mother pinged again. "Beta, I know you're upset, but remember, we're proud of you no matter what. Just do your best tomorrow." Zara couldn't even muster a reply. Her fingers hovered over the keys, but the words felt hollow. She was too caught up in the gravity of the situation to care much about anything else. Her career was hanging by a thread, and she knew that tomorrow could either confirm her as a complete failure or somehow restore her credibility. Her phone buzzed again, but this time it was a text from Harvey. "You up?" Zara groaned. She knew what was coming. Harvey was fuming. He had been seething at the studio after her laugh, but now was the moment of truth. The follow-up interview with Musk was supposed to save the day or ruin it. "Yeah," she typed back, "preparing for tomorrow." "Good," Harvey replied quickly. "Listen, I'm giving you one shot to turn this around. Musk's people reached out. They're still going ahead with it, but this time, you better be prepared. No screw-ups." Zara stared at the message. Her hands trembled slightly. She had agreed to the follow-up interview out of necessity. At the time, it had seemed like a way to recover, a chance to make things right. But now it felt like she was walking into the lion's den. If Musk's technology turned out to be the real deal, her career would skyrocket. But if it didn't, well, she didn't want to think about the consequences. Harvey's next message came through. "Musk wants you to do the follow-up. I don't care what you have to do, but you better make it good." Zara closed her eyes. She had no choice. She was being forced into this. Tomorrow she would either expose Musk's tech for what it was, or become part of his master plan. She stood up and paced across her living room, trying to push the anxiety out of her mind. The thought of the live broadcast tomorrow was unbearable. The pressure was mounting, and the expectations were impossible. What if the technology really worked? What if Musk wasn't lying? Could she really break the biggest story in history, or would she fall flat on her face again? Zara's mind began to spiral, and she reached for her laptop. She had to research the technology, the quantum energy, the theoretical physics behind it. She needed to understand how this worked, what Musk was really claiming. If there was any chance to save herself, it would come from understanding exactly what she was dealing with. Hours passed in a blur as she pored over articles, papers, and videos on quantum physics, zero-point energy, and quantum fluctuations. Her eyes began to blur, and her neck ached from staring at the screen. But still, she couldn't stop. She had to be prepared. She had to know everything there was to know, even if it meant running on nothing but coffee and sheer willpower. By the time the clock read 3 a.m., Zara was exhausted. Her head was spinning with technical jargon, theories, and the weight of the decision she had to make. She could feel herself slipping, but there was no time to rest. Tomorrow the cameras would be on her again, and she had to make her choice. She closed her laptop and stared at the wall, lost in thought. She knew Musk had invited her to witness the technology for a reason. He wanted her to see it firsthand, to be the one who told the world about it. If it was real, it would be her career-defining moment. But if it wasn't, she had to believe that the truth would come out. Whether it was Musk's invention or something else entirely, she would be able to spot the flaws. She had always prided herself on being a skeptic, on challenging the status quo. She couldn't let herself be blinded by the weight of fame or the allure of the story. With a heavy sigh, Zara stood up and walked to the window, staring out at the city below. The lights twinkled in the distance, reminding her of why she had become a journalist in the first place. To uncover the truth, to find the story that mattered. Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, tomorrow, I'll find the truth. She turned away from the window, walked over to the couch and collapsed into it. Despite the exhaustion, her mind kept racing. She knew she couldn't sleep, not yet. She needed clarity. She needed the truth. As the early morning light started to filter through the blinds, Zara finally succumbed to exhaustion, her mind racing with possibilities, doubts, and fears. Tomorrow was her moment of redemption, or her complete downfall. But one thing was certain, the biggest story of her career was waiting for her, and she had to be ready to face it. The sun had barely risen by the time Zara woke up. Her neck was stiff from the hours she'd spent hunched over her laptop the night before, but she didn't have time to dwell on the discomfort. The day she'd been dreading and, in a strange way, anticipating, was finally here. The follow-up interview with Elon Musk. Her phone buzzed the moment she stepped out of the shower, and she grabbed it reflexively. It was Harvey, his message terse. Musk's people just confirmed. Cars coming in 30 minutes. Be ready. Zara didn't respond. She didn't need to. She knew exactly what Harvey expected from her: professionalism, focus, and above all, results. She had already made her mistake on live television, and now she had a chance to fix it, if she could. Dressed in a crisp navy blue suit, Zara ran her fingers through her damp hair. Her reflection in the mirror showed a woman who looked almost too calm for the storm she was about to face. The stakes had never been higher. She was about to sit across from Musk again, but this time, it wouldn't just be an interview. It would be the reveal of something far more important than she could have imagined. When the car arrived, Zara found herself surrounded by security as she made her way to the sleek black Tesla. Inside, she was greeted by a friendly face, Rico, a member of Musk's security team. "Ms. Smith," he said, offering her a handshake. "I'm Rico. Mr. Musk sent me to bring you to the demonstration site." Zara shook his hand, still processing the magnitude of what was about to happen. "How far is it?" she asked as they pulled away from the curb. "About 2 hours," Rico replied, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "We're heading out to the desert. But don't worry, Mr. Musk thought you might have questions on the way. We can talk." Zara nodded, her mind already racing with questions. If this technology was real, if Musk was truly on the verge of something world-changing, it would alter everything. It was hard to wrap her head around the sheer scale of it. Energy scarcity, pollution, climate change. Could all of that really be solved with a device the size of a microwave? Was this truly the breakthrough humanity had been waiting for? "Why the desert?" Zara asked, trying to keep her thoughts organized. "What's so special about this place?" Rico glanced over his shoulder briefly before turning his attention back to the road. "It's not just the location, it's the facility. It's remote, secure, and designed for testing and production. Musk's team has been working on this for years. There's a lot of sensitive stuff out there." Sensitive stuff? Zara filed that away in her mind. What exactly was Musk testing in the desert? She wasn't sure she was ready to find out. The city gradually faded behind them, replaced by barren desert landscapes. Zara watched the scenery shift from the dull gray of the suburbs to the rolling, empty expanses of sand and rock. Despite herself, she felt a twinge of excitement. This was it, the moment that could change her career. And if Musk was right, the moment that could change the world. About halfway through the drive, Rico spoke again, as if sensing her growing tension. You know, when I first joined Mr. Musk's team, I thought it was all impossible too. I laughed just like you did, to his face. Zara blinked in surprise. You laughed, she asked, turning slightly toward him. I did, Rico said, his voice tinged with a touch of embarrassment. I have a background in physics, and everything I knew said it couldn't be done. But after seeing it for myself, I had to change my mind. Now I know what Musk is doing isn't just talk, it's real. Zara was intrigued but cautious. What changed your mind? Rico's expression grew serious, and he glanced out the window as if lost in thought. You'll see for yourself. But believe me when I say, it's unlike anything you could imagine. This technology, it's not just an energy breakthrough, it's something else entirely. The conversation lapsed into silence, and Zara turned back to look out the window. She was still processing everything, still unsure of what to believe, but she was also starting to feel a sense of anticipation creeping up inside her. What if Rico was right? What if this wasn't just about energy? What if this was the beginning of something far bigger, something humanity wasn't ready for? As they drove further into the desert, the landscape grew more desolate. Finally, Rico pointed to something ahead. Zara squinted, and for a moment she thought it was just another rock formation. But as they got closer, she saw it. An impressive modern warehouse structure standing starkly against the arid backdrop. This is it, Rico said. Facility 7. Zara's heart raced. This was the place where the technology would be revealed. The place where she would either be vindicated or prove her skepticism was justified. As they pulled into the parking area, Zara was struck by the contrast between the facility and its surroundings. The building looked brand new, almost too pristine for its remote location. Security personnel in plain clothes stood at key positions around the entrance, and a handful of people in business attire and lab coats were waiting. Dr. Chen, Musk's lead scientist, was among them. She smiled as she approached Zara. Ms. Smith, she said, extending a hand. It's a pleasure to meet you. Zara shook her hand, surprised by the warm welcome. Thank you for having me, Zara replied. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I'm curious. Dr. Chen gave a small nod, and Zara couldn't help but notice the way her eyes sparkled with intelligence and passion. This project has been a labor of love for all of us. We're excited to show you what we've been working on. Zara followed Dr. Chen through the entrance, passing more security checkpoints. Inside, the facility was unlike anything she had ever seen. Clean, modern, and brimming with state-of-the-art equipment. But there was something else, something intangible that made Zara's skin prickle with unease. The centerpiece of the facility was what appeared to be a simple metal cube, about the size of a mini-fridge, sitting in the center of the room. It was silver, sleek, and completely devoid of any buttons, screens, or wires. If Zara hadn't known better, she might have mistaken it for an abstract art installation. Standing beside it was Elon Musk himself. Dressed casually in a black t-shirt and jeans, he greeted Zara with a friendly smile. Miss Smith, he said, his voice as calm as ever. I'm glad you could make it. I hope the drive wasn't too uncomfortable. Zara straightened up, trying to steady her nerves. Not at all, Mr. Musk. Thank you for the invitation. This is Dr. Alana Chen, Musk said, introducing the scientist standing next to him. She's the one who helped bring this technology to life? Zara shook Dr. Chen's hand, still reeling from the surreal nature of it all. The device in front of her was so simple, yet somehow she knew it was about to change everything. Musk turned to the others who were setting up cameras and equipment. We'll start in about 10 minutes, he said. Feel free to look around, but please don't touch anything just yet. Zara glanced around the room, taking in the advanced technology and the secure, almost clinical atmosphere. The air felt tense, and for the first time since she arrived, Zara began to wonder if she had truly grasped the enormity of the situation. She was standing at the threshold of a story that could rewrite everything she had known. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into something far bigger than just a new energy source, something that could change the very fabric of reality itself. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence as the cameras finished setting up and the crew began their final preparations. Zara stood next to Elon Musk, trying to keep her composure. But the weight of the situation was starting to settle in. The stark, sterile environment of the facility was unlike anything she had seen before. It felt more like a military installation than a high-tech research facility. Yet there was no denying the sense of purpose in the air, the energy crackling around the small group of scientists, the hum of machinery in the background. She couldn't stop glancing at the small silver cube that sat in the center of the room, bathed in soft artificial light. It looked so innocuous, but Zara knew that what she was about to witness would be anything but ordinary. Musk noticed her lingering gaze and smiled faintly. "I can see you're intrigued," he said. "This is the culmination of years of work. It's the first practical application of QEI, the quantum energy integration technology. What you'll see today will be the beginning of a new chapter in energy production." Zara nodded, but her skepticism remained. She had heard the promises. She had seen the demonstrations. But there was something about this whole situation that didn't sit right with her. The way Musk spoke, so confident and sure of himself, it almost felt rehearsed. It was as though he had planned for this moment to unfold exactly as it was, from the challenge on live TV to the invitation to see the technology firsthand. Zara's mind wandered back to her last conversation with Marcus, the young researcher who had warned her about what Musk's team might be hiding. He had seemed so certain that there was more to this story than just energy. She thought about the thumb drive Marcus had given her, the strange files that had popped up on her phone. There were images of a mysterious object recovered from the ocean floor, documents suggesting a connection to something far beyond Earth. Her heart skipped a beat as she realized the implications of what she was about to see. What if the technology wasn't just Musk's creation? What if it was something else entirely? What if they were merely reverse engineering something they had found? "Ms. Smith," Musk's voice cut through her thoughts and she snapped back to attention. "We're ready to begin." The floor director signaled to her, and Zara took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. She was about to be the first journalist in the world to witness this technology firsthand. Millions of people would be watching, but the questions swirling in her mind were growing louder with each passing moment. Was this a story about energy or something much bigger? Musk gestured to the silver cube. "This is the heart of it all," he said. "It's a resonance chamber that amplifies quantum fluctuations, extracting usable energy from the quantum foam. It's safe, clean, and, most importantly, it's sustainable." Zara took her seat across from him, the weight of her notebook in her lap almost comforting in its familiarity. "And how exactly does it work?" she asked, pushing past her unease. This was the moment she had been preparing for. The moment to ask the questions that would either expose the truth or prove her wrong. Musk smiled, seemingly delighted by the question. At its core, QEI works by harnessing the zero-point energy field that exists everywhere around us, in the fabric of space itself. We've created a device that can tap into this field and extract usable energy with no external power source needed. Zara raised an eyebrow, trying to keep the skepticism from her voice. "So, you're telling me you found a way to pull energy from empty space?" she asked, leaning forward. Musk's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Not empty space, Zara. Space is never truly empty. At the quantum level, it's a seething mass of particles constantly popping in and out of existence. We've learned how to tap into that sea of virtual particles and convert it into usable electricity. It's an infinite source of power, if we can access it." Zara felt her head spin. It was hard to believe that something so abstract could be turned into usable energy. But Musk's confidence was palpable, and the scientists around them seemed to believe in it too. Zara's instincts told her that if she didn't understand this fully, she couldn't expose the truth or the lies of what Musk was presenting. But there was more to the story. She could feel it in her gut. "So you're saying that this cube," Zara said, gesturing to the small device, "is pulling energy from the quantum foam? Is there any danger of, I don't know, unintended consequences? What about radiation or harmful side effects?" Musk gave a calm smile, clearly expecting the question. "We've conducted extensive safety tests. The technology is completely radiation-free, produces no waste, and is designed with multiple fail-safes to prevent any malfunctions. In fact, We've been testing prototypes for over 18 months with no issues. Zara nodded, but her mind was racing. And how soon can this be rolled out to the public? If it's as safe as you say, why wait? Musk's eyes gleamed. We're already planning to deploy the first units to developing nations in 6 months. Areas with little to no existing power infrastructure, villages in Africa, remote areas of Asia, and parts of South America. This technology can power entire communities without the need for traditional power grids. It's a game changer. Zara scribbled down notes quickly. The scope of this technology was enormous, but there was still a part of her that couldn't fully accept it. The claims were too grand, too perfect. Was it possible that Musk and his team had found a solution that could solve the global energy crisis? Or was there something else at play? As if reading her thoughts, Musk added, "We're also working on making the technology available to the developed world, but we're starting with those who need it most." Zara leaned back in her chair, her mind reeling. This was it. If this technology was real, it would be the biggest story she had ever covered. It would change everything. But there was a nagging feeling in her gut, the same feeling she had experienced when Marcus had handed her that mysterious thumb drive. There was something more, something hidden beneath the surface. The room was still as Musk continued to talk about the potential applications of the technology. Zara let the words wash over her, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about energy. There was something else, something buried deep within this project. The cube in front of her, which had seemed so simple, now felt ominous. She knew this technology was groundbreaking, but was it possible that Musk's team was hiding something even bigger? Something more dangerous? Zara made a mental note to return to the files Marcus had given her, the ones she had barely had time to examine. The photos, the documents, the strange symbols, the underwater recovery operation. What did they all mean? She had to know. There was a story here, and it was bigger than anything she had ever imagined. Her thoughts were interrupted when Musk turned to her, a knowing smile on his face. "I know you're skeptical," he said, his voice softer now. "But once you see this in action, you'll understand." Zara nodded, trying to focus. She wasn't ready to give in to Musk's confidence. She couldn't afford to. But the truth was, she needed answers, and she wasn't sure where to look to find them. Zara's thoughts were still swirling, a whirlwind of questions and doubts. But the demonstration was about to begin. She knew that this would either solidify her career or destroy it entirely. She had to keep her mind sharp, no matter how surreal this moment felt. Musk moved toward the silver cube and gestured for Zara to follow him. "I'll show you exactly how it works. We've got a few devices set up here, just regular household items, but they'll power up seamlessly once we activate the system." Zara watched as a small fan was brought forward and placed a few feet from the cube. A production assistant plugged the fan's cord into a small stand. Musk turned to Zara, a glint in his eyes. "This is the simple demonstration. You'll see the energy field in action. No wires, no power source. Just the cube and the energy it pulls from the quantum foam." The fan flickered to life the moment it was within the range of the cube. The air around it hummed with a soft energy field. Zara's heart skipped a beat. It worked. Zara, trying to keep her professional composure, jotted down a few notes, but her mind was racing. Could it really be this simple? The fan was clearly powered without any external connection, but it didn't answer the bigger question. How? And was it safe? Musk moved on to other devices, a small television, a laptop, and even a light bulb. Each one was powered without any direct connection to an outlet. It was as if the cube created an invisible web of energy that could feed anything within range. For the next 20 minutes, the demonstrations continued, each more astonishing than the last. They powered larger devices, even electric drills and small appliances, with no visible energy source other than the cube. Zara couldn't deny it anymore. This was real. The technology worked. But the more she witnessed, the more a cold sense of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. After the demonstration, Musk turned toward her again, his eyes still full of that quiet excitement. "As you can see, the QEI technology doesn't require any traditional power sources. It taps into the fundamental energy that's present everywhere. The potential applications are limitless." Zara nodded slowly, still processing the enormity of what she had just witnessed. "And it's completely safe?" she asked, her voice more tentative than she intended. "Absolutely," Musk said without hesitation. "The field we create is stable, and it's been tested extensively. There are no harmful emissions, no radiation, no waste of any kind. It's the cleanest, safest form of energy we've ever encountered." Zara wanted to believe him. The evidence was right in front of her, but there was a lingering question that still gnawed at her. If this technology had been in development for years, and if it could truly change the world, why hadn't Musk made it public sooner? "Mr. Musk," she asked, her voice steady but probing, "if this technology is so revolutionary, why has it been kept so secret until now? Why not share it with the world immediately?" Musk's smile faltered just slightly, as though the question had caught him off guard. He hesitated before answering. "Some technologies require time to mature," he said carefully, choosing his words with care. "The world wasn't ready for this kind of change. There are, let's say, certain precautions we needed to take before releasing it to the public. We didn't want to risk it being weaponized or misused before it could do the most good." Zara raised an eyebrow. The answer didn't sit right with her. "Precautions?" she repeated, her mind racing. "What kind of precautions?" Musk's expression hardened slightly, and for the first time, Zara saw a flicker of something in his eyes. A hint of something more guarded, more secretive. He glanced at Dr. Chen, who was standing nearby, and then back to Zara. "The QEI technology is powerful, too powerful for it to be unleashed without proper safeguards," he said, his voice now more measured. "It's not just about energy. It's about controlling a fundamental force in nature, and with that comes responsibility." Zara's curiosity deepened, but she could sense that Musk wasn't going to elaborate further. Something about his response felt off. It was as if there was a whole layer of the story that he was deliberately keeping hidden. Before she could ask more questions, Dr. Chen spoke up. "Mr. Musk, if you're ready, we can move on to the next demonstration." Musk nodded, then turned to Zara. "There's one more thing I'd like to show you, something that's not yet ready for public release, but I believe you'll find it interesting." Zara followed him down a corridor that led deeper into the facility. The air around them seemed to change, thicker, heavier, as though they were moving into a restricted area. Zara felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, and her instincts told her something was wrong. They arrived at a door that was different from the others in the facility. It was reinforced, much thicker, and had a high-tech security system with multiple biometric scanners. The guards who stood outside seemed more alert than those who had been stationed around the demonstration room. "This is our Advanced Applications Division," Musk said quietly, his voice lowering as if he didn't want to attract attention. "We're still working on a few experimental concepts here." Zara's curiosity was piqued. She had been following Musk's career for years, but this was a side of him she had never seen before. The secrecy, the caution. She wasn't sure what she was about to see, but she had a feeling it would be far beyond energy production. Musk gestured to the door. "We can't let the public know about this yet. It's still in the testing phase, and some of the results are difficult to explain, but I want you to see it for yourself." The door slid open with a soft hum, and they stepped inside. What Zara saw made her breath catch in her throat. Inside the room was something unlike anything she had ever encountered. Suspended in the air by a series of electromagnetic fields was a glowing sphere, its light shifting and pulsing in ways that defied explanation. It wasn't like any technology she had ever seen. The edges of the sphere shimmered with an iridescent light, as though it were somehow alive. Musk stepped forward, his expression filled with awe. "This is part of our quantum field manipulation research," he said softly. "We're experimenting with how quantum fields can be used to manipulate space-time itself." Zara's mouth went dry. Space-time manipulation? Was this what Musk had really been working on all this time? Could this technology somehow be connected to the very fabric of reality itself? As she took a step closer, she noticed something else, something subtle, yet undeniably present. The air around the sphere seemed distorted, not just in a physical sense, but in a way that felt wrong, unnatural. The technology was powerful, that much was clear, but Zara couldn't shake the feeling that they were tampering with something they didn't fully understand. Before she could ask more, a voice interrupted the silence. One of the researchers, young, nervous-looking, stood at the far end of the room watching her. When their eyes met, he quickly looked away and disappeared behind a stack of equipment. Zara's pulse quickened. There was something else going on here, something hidden in the shadows. She had to know more. Zara followed Musk and Dr. Chen as they continued their tour of the facility, but her mind was no longer focused on the demonstrations or the groundbreaking technology. Her thoughts were consumed by the strange sphere she had just seen. The way it pulsed, the way the air around it seemed to shift. It was unlike anything she had ever encountered. The feeling of unease lingered, gnawing at her insides. As they moved through the complex, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that she was seeing only a fraction of the story. The further they went into the facility, the more it felt like she was being shown the polished version of the truth, the version that Musk and his team wanted the world to see. But there were secrets buried beneath the surface, and Zara was beginning to believe that the true story, one far bigger than just energy, was hiding in plain sight. Her mind kept circling back to Marcus. His warning had echoed in her mind since the moment she stepped into the facility. They're hiding something. But what? What did Musk's team know that they weren't telling her? And why did it feel like the more she uncovered, the more she realized how little she understood? They moved into a new section of the facility, one that seemed even more secure than the rest. The doors were reinforced, and the security personnel stationed at every checkpoint were more alert than before. There were no lab coats here, only technicians in plain clothes who spoke in hushed tones, their eyes flickering nervously as they passed. "This is our secure research division," Musk explained, his tone more guarded now. "The work here is still in its early stages, so we're keeping it under wraps. But it's significant." Zara felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise. Every instinct she had screamed that something wasn't right. She had seen enough to know that this wasn't just about energy. The technology they were showing her had the potential to change the world in ways that went far beyond anything she had imagined. But if Musk's team was hiding something, how much of this was the truth? And how much of it was a carefully crafted illusion? Musk led her into a small room at the back of the facility, its walls lined with high-tech equipment and screens displaying complex data. In the center of the room was a large cylindrical structure, its surface covered with glowing symbols and markings Zara didn't recognize. She could feel the energy emanating from it, but it wasn't the same energy as the cube. This felt different, more intense, more unstable. "This," Musk said, his voice lower now, "is one of our more experimental projects. It's still in the theoretical stages, but we're working on applications that go beyond energy. What we've discovered could revolutionize space travel, communication, and even the way we understand the universe itself." Zara's heart raced. Space travel? Communication? How was any of this connected to energy? She glanced at the screen, trying to make sense of the data, but it was over her head. The numbers and symbols blurred in front of her eyes. "We've made significant breakthroughs in manipulating quantum fields," Musk continued, his voice filled with quiet pride. "It's not just about energy anymore. We're learning to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Gravity, time, even space itself." Zara blinked. Gravity? Time? Space? Was Musk suggesting that they had discovered a way to alter the very fabric of reality? Her mind was struggling to keep up with the implications. She had come here to report on a new energy technology, but what she was hearing now seemed to stretch the boundaries of science fiction. "And what exactly does this mean?" Zara asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Are you saying you've figured out how to manipulate gravity or time? You're talking about altering the fundamental laws of physics. How is that even possible?" Musk smiled, but there was an almost imperceptible shift in his demeanor. The confidence that had been so prevalent in his voice earlier now seemed tinged with something else, something more cautious. "It's still in the early stages," he said. "We're just beginning to understand the full scope of what we've discovered. But what I can tell you is this. Everything we've learned so far points to one thing. There is more to this universe than we've ever imagined." Zara felt a chill crawl down her spine. More than we've ever imagined. Those words echoed in her mind. This wasn't just about a new source of energy. This was about something far more profound, something that had the potential to change the entire course of humanity, and perhaps even reveal a truth that mankind wasn't ready for. Before she could ask more, a familiar face appeared in the doorway. It was Rico, the security officer she had met earlier. He looked nervous as he approached Musk, his expression tense. "Mr. Musk," Rico said, his voice low, "we've got a situation." Musk's eyes narrowed and he turned to Zara. "I'm sorry, Miss Smith. I need to take care of something. Please stay here. I'll be back shortly." Zara nodded, but her thoughts were already racing. She had seen enough to know that whatever was happening here, whatever was being kept hidden, was bigger than just the technology. She wasn't just dealing with a revolutionary energy source. She was standing on the edge of something much more significant. Something that Musk's team wasn't ready to share with the world. As soon as Musk and Rico left the room, Zara's instincts kicked in. She couldn't wait any longer. She had to find out what was really going on. The truth was buried somewhere in this facility, somewhere behind closed doors and guarded secrets. And if she was going to get the whole story, she needed to act fast. She glanced around the room. There were several terminals with research data displayed on the screens. If she could get access, maybe she could find something that would give her the answers she needed. She walked over to one of the terminals and started typing quickly. The system was surprisingly easy to navigate, and within moments, she had accessed files labeled with code names and encrypted data. One of the files caught her attention: Project Prometheus. Zara hesitated for a moment before clicking on the file. As it opened, her heart skipped a beat. The first image was a photograph of a large object being recovered from the ocean floor. It was metallic, sleek, and completely unlike anything Zara had ever seen before. The caption read, "South Pacific Recovery Operation, 6 years ago." The object was clearly not a ship or submarine. It was something else entirely. The next few files were just as unsettling. Technical reports, analysis papers, and even translations of strange symbols. But the most chilling part was the last video, marked Eyes Only, First Contact Protocol. Zara's breath caught in her throat as she clicked on the video. Zara watched the video with growing disbelief. The first thing that struck her was the sterile, almost clinical environment in which it was filmed. It looked like a high-tech laboratory, but the object in the center of the room, a strange metallic structure, was anything but normal. Its surface glowed with a pulsating light that shifted between colors Zara couldn't even name. She felt her pulse quicken, a cold shiver running down her spine. The researchers in the video wore protective suits as they carefully examined the object. One of them, a woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, reached out and gently touched its surface. The moment her fingers made contact, the object began to glow brighter, and the camera feed flickered to static. For a moment, the screen went black. Then the video resumed, but this time, the room was in chaos. The woman who had touched the object was being helped to her feet by medical personnel. She looked disoriented, her face pale, but otherwise unharmed. As the medical team helped her sit down, she began speaking rapidly, but her words were jumbled, almost incoherent. The audio was muffled, but Zara could make out fragments. "Show me the field structure. It's all connected. They've been trying to reach us." The video abruptly cut off, leaving Zara staring at the screen in stunned silence. She replayed the clip several times, trying to make sense of it. Whoever, or whatever, had sent that object wasn't from Earth. The technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The research teams had uncovered something far bigger than just a breakthrough in energy. Zara quickly skimmed through the rest of the files. There were reports on the recovery operation, detailed analysis of the object, and even some papers written by leading physicists. But the last one, labeled Project Prometheus, First Contact Protocol, made her heart race. This wasn't just about the technology. It was about an encounter with an intelligence beyond Earth, an intelligence that had been trying to make contact with humanity for years. The files revealed that the technology Musk's team had developed, the QEI technology, wasn't entirely their own. It had been reverse engineered from the mysterious object recovered from the ocean floor. And worse, the protocols in place suggested that they weren't the only ones aware of this alien presence. Zara stood frozen for a moment, absorbing the enormity of what she had just uncovered. The entire story, the one Musk had carefully cultivated for the public, was based on a lie. QEI wasn't just a groundbreaking energy technology. It was a product of something far greater, something that had the potential to change the very course of human history. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Marcus. "Are you at the facility? I need to talk to you. It's urgent." Zara's heart raced. Marcus knew something. He had warned her about Musk and the technology, and now she had seen the proof. But what did Marcus know about the full story? Before she could respond, the door to the room opened. Rico entered, his face tight with concern. "Miss Smith, Mr. Musk is looking for you." He said it's time to move to the next phase of the demonstration. Zara quickly closed the files and locked her phone, shoving it into her pocket. She couldn't stay here any longer. She had to make a choice. She followed Rico down the hallway, her mind racing. Everything she had seen, the QEI technology, the alien object, the cryptic warning from Marcus, was leading her to a single point: the full truth, the one that could change everything. As they entered the main room again, Musk was waiting for her, standing next to the glowing cube. He had a calm, expectant expression on his face, but Zara could see the subtle tension in his posture. He knew what she had uncovered. He knew she had questions. "Miss Smith," he said, his voice smooth but with an edge of caution, "I trust you've had the chance to see everything we've shown you so far. But there's one more thing I'd like to discuss." Zara crossed her arms, fighting the urge to press him for answers right then and there. She had seen enough to know that the QEI technology was just the surface of something far more dangerous. But Musk wasn't ready to reveal the full truth. Not yet, and she wasn't sure if he ever would be. "What's next, Mr. Musk?" she asked, trying to keep her voice neutral, though she could feel the weight of the truth bearing down on her. Musk's gaze held hers for a moment, and Zara could almost hear him calculating his next words. "You've seen the potential of what we're doing here. We can change the world, provide free, clean energy to everyone. But there's something more that we need to consider. The world isn't ready for the full scope of what we've discovered. Not yet." Zara could barely contain herself. She knew exactly what he was getting at. The full scope. He was talking about the alien technology, the object, the first contact. He was hinting at something far more explosive than just energy. "What are you saying, Mr. Musk?" Zara asked, her voice low but urgent. "What are you hiding?" Musk gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. "I'm not hiding anything, Miss Smith. Not from you. But there are forces in play that we haven't fully understood yet. There's a reason we're proceeding cautiously. We're not just dealing with energy, we're dealing with the unknown. And some truths need to be introduced slowly, in stages." Zara's mind was reeling. The truth was right in front of her, but Musk was holding back, controlling the narrative. He was leading her down a carefully constructed path, one that only he could see the end of. He was hiding the real story, the one about the extraterrestrial technology, the one that could change everything. "Mr. Musk," Zara said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her, "I've seen the evidence. I know what's going on here. But the world deserves to know the full story, not just what you want them to know. People need to understand what's really at stake." Musk's smile faded slightly. For a moment, there was a flicker of something darker in his eyes, something that Zara couldn't quite place. "You'll have to be patient, Miss Smith. The truth will come out, eventually. But the world isn't ready for it yet, not in the way you think." Zara stood there silent for a moment. The weight of the decision before her was immense. She had uncovered a truth so profound, so earth-shattering, that revealing it could change the course of history. But she knew the consequences. Panic, chaos, fear. The world wasn't ready to face what lay beyond the stars. Zara closed her eyes for a brief moment, trying to clear her mind. Do I expose the full truth now? Or do I hold back and tell the story in stages, as Musk suggests? When she opened her eyes, she made her decision. "Mr. Musk," she said, her voice unwavering, "I'll report the truth as I see it, but I won't hide it. The world deserves to know, and when the time is right, I'll make sure they do." Musk's gaze held hers for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, but be careful, Miss Smith." Some truths can be dangerous. Zara turned and walked away, her mind racing with the enormity of what she had just decided. The full truth, hidden for so long, was finally emerging. But the world wasn't ready for it, not yet, and neither was she.